All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Friday, April 24th, right here on your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns, brought to you by Rogue Sports Network, right here on All In Horns. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson, and we are going to recap round one of the NFL draft. And before we do that, Jake, I thought that this draft kind of going into it was a little lackluster, didn't really have the star power. You had, obviously, Travis Hunter. You had the Sheduer Sanders, who has not been picked yet, at least at time of recording, where the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Eagles have yet to pick their draft picks. I don't think either of those teams need a quarterback last time I checked.
Could see a trade up, though. This is definitely a trade up spot here.
But this first round was about as exciting as the hype going into the draft for me. It was pretty lackluster, kind of lame. Didn't really excite me at all. The most exciting thing was the Jaguars trading up to the number 2 pick with the Browns and jumping up about 5 spots to do that. So that was kind of cool. And then we had two other trades back to back, with the Atlanta Falcons taking James Pierce, and then the New York Giants obviously trading back into the first round to get Jaxon Dart. So those are kind of the big headliners. And then obviously Sheduer Sanders falling out of the first round, unless there's a trade up between now and the end of the first round at the time of recording. But yeah, my overall take, Jake, just I don't know. It was just kind of a lackluster first round. Just didn't really feel it in terms of the excitement.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the stage was cool. The crowd is incredible. The overhead shots and stuff is really cool. I still have fun watching the draft.
Always. It's football.
But as far as like crazy trades, I think the top skill position guys, like once you got outside of that top 10, I don't think, I know Matthew Golden was still sitting there and he dropped a little bit later than maybe some were expecting, but and this is no shot at a Matthew Golden or if we have even seen Tet McMillan go from Arizona.
No, he went number 8 to Carolina.
I missed Carolina's pick. I was going out and moving the sprinklers, and I don't care about Carolina.
I was about to say, I'll give you credit where credit's due. That's kind of how I feel about Carolina Panthers in the NFL as a whole.
Yeah, I saw I'd missed Carolina's pick, and then I just hadn't looked at it. Yeah, so I thought he was just still available for some reason. Okay,
it was Tet McMillan.
We should cut that.
Okay,
but no, Golden going a little bit later, but even a Tet and a Golden, I think in other classes they would have been behind several other guys. As far as just saying, when you look at that ceiling level, there's no Justin Jefferson, there's no CD Lamb. I don't think there's anyone to that level other than a Travis Hunter and Ashton Jeanty possibly.
What are we counting? I mean, Travis Hunter, obviously a wide receiver, goes number 2 overall, but he also has the ability to play corner. Let's talk a little bit about what the Jacksonville Jaguars did, trading up to that number 2 pick to get Travis Hunter. Jake, I think he's a phenomenal player. I think he's exciting. I loved watching him in Colorado. He was the only reason why I would turn Colorado games on, is to watch Travis Hunter. Where do you think he fits in the end? Like, do you think he's going to live up to this number 2, Jacksonville trading up to him? Not only that, are they going to know how to use him? Are they going to use him correctly? What are the variables that go into the success of his NFL career?
Well, and that's a lot of unknowns as far as whether Jacksonville knows how to utilize them. Obviously, Jacksonville has gone with a youth movement within their front office at the head coaching position. And typically those guys are pretty creative when it comes to, and so I think that's maybe the right type of people to know how to utilize him, which is kind of weird when you're talking about Jacksonville, but you kind of have to reprogram your brain. They basically have someone I think he's like a year older than me, is the GM of the team, which is crazy to think about. He's 31, I think. He might be 30.
Full Madden mode on his first draft.
And it's a trade that kind of makes sense for both sides. If you're Jacksonville, you're going up and you're getting, to me, 1A, 1B in this draft was Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, without a doubt. And so you're going up and getting one of the top guys in the draft, and a guy that, as long as you have and I imagine if you're trading up for him, you have a plan as far as bring him in, play a lot of wide receiver, start at wide receiver more than likely is the way I would go about it, and then play him in key downs, key situations on defense. And just kind of sprinkle him in there, because even as a starting wide receiver, he's not going to play every single snap out there at wide receiver. And so it'll be very interesting to see how he's utilized. Will he live up to the hype? I mean, I don't know. He's a Heisman Trophy winner that plays both sides of the ball. That's going to get compared to Deion Sanders. That's a lot to live up to.
Yeah.
Does he have the ability to? I mean, I think he does. I mean, he was the number one recruit in high school in the entire country. People forget that because he went to
Jackson State.
And then transferred to Colorado and followed Deion. But he was the first number one recruit in high school, won the Heisman in college, and now is the number 2 pick in the NFL. He's lived up to his hype at every single level so far. So there's nothing to me to suggest that he can't in the NFL level. The key will be if he's playing both sides of the ball, can he stay healthy?
Yeah, the Buffalo Bills have just picked Maxwell Hairston, the cornerback from Kentucky, leaving Will Johnson from Michigan, who was maybe the consensus number 1 corner in this year's draft, maybe 1-2 with Jahdae Barron, who was the number 1 corner taken in this draft, was Jahdae Barron. And so I thought that is a little bit of an interesting pick. Not to say that Harrison's not a good corner, but with Will Johnson being on the board, there must be something that
there's got to be something.
There's got to be something that these GMs have found out that they don't like, that consensusly don't like about Will Johnson.
Though sometimes when that happens, you go, there's got to be something, and then the player ends up being an absolute stud.
Yep.
It happens all the time.
Sometimes it's medicals, sometimes it's off the field stuff, and it doesn't end up playing a part in their actual professional career. It's just a red flag for drafting that player.
Yeah, and that'll be interesting. But you mentioned Jahdae Barron. We're a Longhorn podcast here. First cornerback taken, and I think Kelvin Banks, we both expected to go top 10, and I'll get into that in a minute.
We're saving a good chunk of this show is going to be dedicated to Kelvin Banks and what Jake thought of the draft coverage on Kelvin Banks.
But for Jahdae Barron, another example these coaches can look at and go, look what happens when you trust us, when you trust the process. He's a guy that considered going pro last year, would have been 4th, 5th round, probably at best 4th round, and stays a year and then goes middle of the 1st round.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be an absolute stud, Jake. I really like Jahdae Barron, and I like him at Denver. I think that's a great system for him to be in. They've got a good defense. They've got a good young core group with him and Patrick Surtain on the other side. That cornerback group, that secondary group has automatically jumped. And you're in a division with, Justin Herbert. You're in a division with Patrick Mahomes. You got some pretty good quarterbacks in that division. So, yeah, you're going to need some good secondary for the Denver Broncos. And every division, you can tell divisionally where these teams are drafting. The Cowboys getting Tyler Booker from Alabama, interior offensive lineman.
Did the Eagles and Kansas City just swap picks?
The Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs just swap picks. That just happened.
That's odd.
That
just one
happened.
Spot?
Just one spot up, one spot back.
That's not something you see very often.
Especially after a team just mollywopped them in the Super Bowl.
That is an odd trade. We'll have to see what the details of and who they pick.
That makes 4 first-round picks trades in the first round.
Did they make like a bet pre-Super Bowl or something? I don't know. That just seems weird. I mean, unless the Chiefs were getting calls and then the Eagles just really wanted someone in particular. But maybe
they want Will Johnson.
Yeah, I mean,
Chiefs could use a corner.
They'll just keep drafting Philly will just keep drafting corner. This can be interesting to see who their pick is. Sorry,
Yeah.
I just looked over. I was like,
No, yeah.
Eagles are picking who the Chiefs pick? No,
Yeah, they haven't.
They haven't. It's at 31. Okay.
So, yeah, but no, Jahdae Barron is going to be a good pick, especially with the group that Denver is building on defense. They've got a young core. You're not a Bo Nix believer. You said you will stay on that. You will die on that hill of not believing in Bo Nix. That's perfectly fine. We all have those hills that we die on. But then the Raiders within that division, they take Ashton Genty, top 10 pick. Jake, you and I, we had a brief discussion on Ashton Genty as well. What we think. I think he's going to be a very polarizing player in the NFL. He's going to be either a kind of just somewhat of a pretty decent to good running back, top 10 guy year in and year out. That's just going to be a solid contributor for however long a running back's lifespan is in the NFL for, 6-7 years, whatever that looks like for him. Or he's going to be the number one running back in about 3 years, and he'll be the best running back in the league, and Saquon will kind of start to tail off a little bit. Derrick Henry will obviously be towards the tail end of his career. Bijan might be jumping up at that point to compete with him and Genty as the top 2 running backs in the league. And then I can also see there is a world where Ashton Genty is a bust and doesn't do much of anything in the NFL, and his game just doesn't translate. He's too small. And the Raiders can't put a supporting offensive line, a supporting cast around him for him to succeed.
Yeah. First off, it was a 5th round pick that they traded, and then obviously the pick swap. So that was the trade for Genty. I kind of said it, and whenever we cut
linebacker from Alabama, the Eagles. So not a Georgia linebacker, but an Alabama linebacker.
Yeah, and a guy with a very, very high ceiling. For sure.
Damn good linebacker. Probably one of the better interior middle linebackers in this year's draft, if not the best middle linebacker in this year's draft.
Yeah. I would, I guess Jalen Walker is not necessarily interior linebacker.
Well,
but
some people have him.
He can play a little bit everywhere. But on Genty, I kind of said it whenever we were covering running backs. I think he's going to be at least a very good starter in the NFL. Now, if the offensive line sucks, it doesn't matter who you have back there. Right. To be very clear, but if the offensive line is even decent for him up front, I have a hard time not seeing him as a top 5 running back in the NFL currently, and maybe right away. But again, Vegas, I don't know if that'll be able to happen right away because of their because of their offensive line not being the best.
They also
whether the Raiders should have drafted him there. That is definitely a big question. If I were them, I would have taken Kelvin Banks, but I'm biased.
So let's jump in on that, Jake. Kelvin Banks, the 3rd tackle taken in the top 10 picks of this year's draft. Number 4 went Will Campbell to the New England Patriots, and then to the Jets, it was the Missouri tackle at number 7, Armand Membu, and then Kelvin Banks goes 2 picks later to the Saints, number 9. Jake. I'm just going to let you have the floor here. I'm just going to let you take it away.
Mel Kiper's an idiot. That's just all there is to say. I switched to ABC, and before this was said, because I was already getting annoyed at him, because all he could do was talk about Sheduer Sanders. And so I was just like, I'm just going to turn this off. He like Mel Kiper used to not annoy me, but now he just drives me nuts. But then I saw a tweet. And I had to confirm it, or a post from X, the Everything app. Everything happens on X. And I sent it to you just to confirm that I wasn't getting, misinformation, because misinformation does happen on X because everything happens on X. And well, what it say? That Mel Kiper says, well, Kelvin Banks didn't really have a great year this past year.
He did.
What film is he? First off, I can't even say well, maybe he accidentally watched his freshman year film. No, because his freshman year film was great. Maybe he watched his sophomore year film on accident.
He prefaced that too, by the way. He said, well, the 2023 tape is good, and then you pretty much have to only watch the 2024 tape or the 2023 tape if you want good tape of Kelvin Banks, is basically what he said.
He needs to be how you fire Todd McShay and then you bring him in to say that is beyond me. And not that Todd McShay is some type of genius, but at least he's not an obnoxious, moronic idiot like Mel Kiper is.
Todd.
I want to take Kelvin Banks in the top 7 rounds, Todd.
I wouldn't touch Kelvin Banks with a 10-foot pole, Jake. I wouldn't do it.
His arms aren't long enough to reach. He's got T-Rex arms, Todd.
You know, if I had a 10-foot pole, he wouldn't be able to reach me, Todd, because he can't reach that far. His arms aren't that big.
Even though his arms are longer than Will Campbell.
Outland Trophy Award winner, Lombardi Trophy Award winner in the same year, won basically a clean sweep on anything offensive or defensive line this year, and was a consensus All-American, All-SEC offensive lineman. And he allowed 1 or 2 sacks his entire career at Texas.
Oh yeah, like 2 or 3 sacks max his entire career. Just an idiotic statement to say that. If you're gonna knock Kelvin Banks on anything, he's not as dominant of a run. Like I would say, probably Minbao is the best run blocking tackle in the draft. Kelvin Banks second, but Campbell for me was third and everything. I think Campbell will be fine in the NFL. But Banks was my number 1, Minbao was my 2, Campbell was 3. And you talk about arm length, Campbell's arms are shorter than freaking Kelvin Banks. His hands are smaller than Kelvin Banks. What are we doing here?
Yeah. So I want to talk about the broadcast a little bit, the production of ESPN. It's gotten so bad. It's not a great broadcast. You got Mike Greenberg, who is coming in hot on his mic every single time he comes in. I mean, it is just spiking through the roof. And so his mic levels are all over the place. You've got Booger McFarland, who is everyone knows it's Booger McFarland. And then you got Mel Kiper. I watched the ESPN broadcast of the draft simply because I feel like in my brain, it's Mel Kiper is the NFL draft. It's not that I find his rankings or his takes good or valid or anything, because this dude they spent 90% of their time, Jake, talking about Sheduer Sanders. There were guys getting drafted up on stage, and they're literally talking about Sheduer Sanders and where he's going to go. This is the first round. This is 7th round conversations that they're having about Sheduer Sanders in the first round, where they should be talking in detail about each pick coming in, and it is just Sheduer Sanders every single sentence of Todd. I love Sheduer Sanders. I don't think the Miami Dolphins needed a quarterback, but why wouldn't you? Why would you pass up on Sheduer Sanders? The Dallas Cowboys could have used him. San Fran could have used him. The Colts could have. Dude, it was every team that didn't pick Sheduer Sanders. He was like, well, Sheduer's still out there. I'm like, okay, not every team needs a freaking quarterback, dude. Well, Cincinnati, you never know.
But every team needs Sheduer Sanders.
But every team needs Sheduer Sanders.
That's your fault. There is a perfectly good draft coverage with ABC College Game Day crew.
Yeah,
to watch.
I kind of like the tour.
You're a sick little man. And I use the word man very
something
lightly.
Sick in my brain that I kind of like. If I'm going to watch the NFL draft, I kind of want Mel Kiper's voice ringing in my head about it. There's something about it. I don't know why.
Yeah, I would much rather hear Mel Kiper spout a bunch of nonsense than hear Nick Saban, the greatest college football coach to ever play, talk, Desmond Harris talk, Kirk Herbstreit talk, like Reese Davis, like that. That is a stacked booth. And then you have the ESPN that's just a clown show. Booger, who just will be like, he's 6'7". And that's his analysis. And then you have Mike Greenberg, who's Mike Greenberg.
He's not going to control. He's going to say something about the Jets.
He's not a draft. He shouldn't be doing the draft as a main. He's a radio talk show host, and he's very good at that. But that's what he should do.
But yeah, no, he's going to mention something about the Jets.
Yes, which no one wants. I was just glad Kelvin Banks didn't go there. Just for the simple fact of I don't wish it on my worst nightmare to go to the Jets. This is not a green Jets jersey. This is a Stars jersey, just to be very clear.
Jake, another Longhorn player we have not talked about was a Cowboys' worst nightmare. If you are a Cowboys Longhorn fan, the last place you wanted Matthew Green and Golden to go to was the Green Bay Packers, who is hosting the NFL draft this year and had a thunderous roar of applause as he is the first wide receiver taken by Green Bay since 2002. And he comes out in his golden suit and he is just, I mean, living it up. He addresses the crowd on the mic and everything. And he's going to be the most popular guy in Green Bay all year long because they're starved for a first-round wide receiver. And now Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur have their guy. And I have a feeling that he's going to fit perfectly fine in that system. He's going to do really, really freaking well in Green Bay.
Yeah, somewhere Aaron Rodgers is Eli Manning.
No, well, let's be honest with ourselves. Aaron Rodgers is in a dark room somewhere with no electricity.
That's true. But when he gets out of there,
when he gets out of that dark room,
news,
he's gonna be pissed.
Yeah, he's gonna be like, "What the hell?" Yeah,
he's
I
vaccinated.
mean, that's as far as Matthew Golden's career goes. That's about as good of a fit. I mean, he's gonna be their wide receiver one probably now.
I mean,
Green Bay desperately needed a wide receiver, and they were probably very happy. I'm almost surprised they didn't jump up a little to go and get him, but they must have been confident that he was going to fall there. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Golden does there. I think that's a really good place for him to succeed. The only thing that might be a downside for him is the fact that there aren't a bunch of other wide receiver threats. Because sometimes that can, as a rookie, he's going to be relied on very heavily, very early on.
Jake, here's kind of how I think his impact is going to be. Now, again, he doesn't have a Justin Jefferson across from him to take a little bit of pressure away from him, but I see his skill set translating about as well as Jordan Addison's did with Minnesota.
Yeah, I can see that compare. I could see the production being a little bit more just because of the situation at Green Bay. Also, I think Matt LaFleur is a really good offensive mind, really good head coach. And so I think he'll have a very good plan for him. He struggles
situationally. Jake, if it was 4th and 3 on the goal line, would you kicking a field goal or are you going for a touchdown when you're down by 4?
Chiefs, by the way, took Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle from Ohio State. Okay. That's a good pick for them.
No, they need offensive line. They need offensive line.
If I were them, I might take offensive line.
That's probably why they traded back the pick, because they knew the Philadelphia Eagles, last thing they're going to do is take an offensive lineman. They don't need an offensive lineman. So you go ahead, trade back, get a little bit of draft capital added onto it. Not a lot, but an extra pick thrown in there.
Yeah, a 5th round. I mean, they get a 5th round pick out of it. Something.
The pick makes a lot of sense for the Chiefs to do that. So can't say I blame them.
I'd be curious what Philly's reasoning was. I'm sure Howie Roseman has some type of black magic working that he made a deal with the devil for, but
so Jake, when it comes, so we've talked about the Texas Longhorns, 3 Texas Longhorns drafted in the 1st round. Steve Sarkisian tweets out during the draft something about all
they call that a 3-piece,
something. Yeah. So he's loving it, and it's great for recruiting purposes. Great for the Longhorn program to have 3 first-round picks, Jake. We've got a lot more coming. I think actually the next pick could either be Byron Sorrell or an Alfred Collins. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the next Longhorn taken in the 2nd round. We'll probably see Quinn Ewers late 2nd round going into 3rd round possibility. And then, we'll keep an eye on all the Longhorn players going forward. But in terms of the 1st round, I think the first big WTF moment that I had was at pick number 10 with the Chicago Bears taking Colson Loveland at tight end.
Yeah, I know a lot of people had Loveland just as high as Warren on their list. And to be fair to Loveland, I mean, it's hard to shine on that type of offense.
Don't they have Cole Kmet, who they just drafted like 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, but with Ben Johnson coming in,
he probably is not the fit for his system.
Yeah. And but for me, Warren was just without a doubt tight end one. And now poor Warren having to go to the Colts where balls are just going to go 50 miles per hour and 50 feet above his head from Anthony Richardson. And
for the first 3 weeks of the season, then he'll get hurt. And
then Daniel Jones will come in and also throw darts into the crowd. It'll
just fall short. It won't go over his head. It'll just be at his feet.
But yeah, it is interesting. But at the same time, I'm not going to doubt Ben Johnson. I'm just not. Look what he did with Sam Laporta. He's the one who kind of, dialed in on Sam Laporta. I think to the Detroit making a lot of offensive picks that people are like, this is reaching. What are they doing taking Gibbs? What are they doing taking Sam Laporta? What are they doing making this pick? And then they all turned out to be really good players. Not that Ben Johnson's necessarily the one who's just calling the shots at Detroit, but he's the offensive coordinator. He had a say in it.
He had,
and I guarantee he was asking for those guys. And so I bet he has a really good plan for Loveland. And I don't think there was just a gigantic gap between Warren and Loveland. I had Warren above him. But Loveland's film, it's hard to grade because, you really have to watch. He's a guy you have to go back and watch his 2023 film, not Kelvin Banks. And it's not because of anything Loveland did wrong in 2024. It's that Michigan had one of the worst Division I offenses I've ever seen, other than Oklahoma.
And it was pretty horrific. They were near the bottom in terms of offensive rankings and statistics, and nearly every category was Michigan last year. So yeah, no, you're exactly right there, Jake. There's two more picks I want to hit on before we wrap up the show, and then we've got some baseball news we need to discuss before we completely log off and in this episode. But two more picks. They both are in the NFC East. At number 12, Tyler Booker. We'll talk a little bit of Cowboys draft, and then the Giants trading up to get Jaxon Dart, passing on Sheduer Sanders. What we think of Jaxon Dart and that move by the Giants. So let's start at number 12 with Tyler Booker. I was able to watch 2 games during the draft on my phone, had dual screen action while I was kind of freshening up on Tyler Booker. Didn't know a ton about him. Knew he was a highly touted number 1 consensus essentially throughout the big boards across the football landscape of being the number 1 guard available. Your Zach Martin, Hall of Fame guard, retires. You go ahead, replace him in the first round with Tyler Booker, and he's kind of got that nasty streak. A very similar player, Jake, in my opinion, of the film that we saw from Tyler Smith at Tulsa 2-3 years ago when Dallas drafted him number 1, or not number 1, but in the first round with their number 1 pick a few years ago.
Yeah, and Booker for me was my number 1 offensive guard. I did really like the North Dakota State guy who went to Seattle as well. His Senior Bowl was incredible to watch. But Booker is a really good, just he's got that nasty streak to him. I think when it comes to technique, he's going to come in just ready to go right away.
He's day 1 starter easily.
He's a day 1 starter without a doubt. The biggest thing he lacks is, you look at the combine, you look at some of the athleticism scores. I just don't care about that much with an offensive guard.
It shows on film too. It shows on tape. Anytime Alabama had him pulling and he was out in space, he struggles out in space. That's about all I'll say. But that doesn't mean Dallas can't get him to that point.
No, and I don't think he's a bad puller, but pulling up to that second and third level, that's where he starts to struggle some. And that is one of the more challenging things to do as an offensive lineman, in my opinion. And that'll be something.
I think he's just a really slow play. I think he's just not that fast. I mean, he's not nearly as athletic as a Zach Martin.
No, he is not as athletic as a Zach Martin. We don't really know what the scheme is going to be yet for the Cowboys under Brian Schottenheimer as the head coach. I imagine it's going to change. I know he's a really good zone run blocker. I think he's going to be very solid in pass pro. And if you can improve on those pulls and athleticism, which you can do with technique, you can do with just adding a little bit of quickness. It doesn't take that much, and the Cowboys have been pretty good at Actually, they've been very good at drafting offensive linemen. The
Yeah,
Guyton pick.
Tyler Smith. I mean, obviously you've got Tyrone Smith, you've got Travis Frederick, you've got Zach Martin. You kind of went through that era in the first round draft picks. And then you kind of now towards the end where all those guys, it's an end of an era. Both Tyrone Smith and Zach Martin retired this season. Tyron Smith, obviously not a Dallas Cowboy last season, but retired a Dallas Cowboy. But an end of an era with that offensive line. And now you've already kind of put the footwork in terms of replacing that offensive line in a division that is very good on the defensive line. Philadelphia, the Giants just got a whole lot better with Abdul Carter and Kayvon Thibodeau as their edge rushers. And you've got Washington, who made an NFC championship, and they've got a good front seven, a good, powerful front seven. And so you are building your offensive line for your division, and you go Tyler Smith, and then you go on the defensive line, you get Mozzie Smith. You go turn around, get back on the offensive line, you go Tyler Guyton, and now Tyler Booker. So 3 offensive linemen in the last 4 years in the first round for the Dallas Cowboys. You know what they're trying to build. It's that offensive and defensive line within the trenches. I respect them for it, but the picks have got to start. The only one out of those picks that I know is a proven, Pro Bowl caliber guy is Tyler Smith. The last 2 years, it's been a little rough on the first round picks.
Yeah, I mean, neither one of us was high on Guyton. I wasn't. I mean, I had like a second, third round draft grade on him. I'm a lot higher on Booker than I was Guyton. I feel similarly to Booker to how I felt about Tyler Smith.
Once I watched Tyler Smith, I didn't like the Tyler Smith when it initially happened.
I had to talk you off a ledge that night.
But once I watched about 3-4 games of film, I was like, I think I love this guy because the way he plays is just nasty. He's just got that interior nasty motor, and
he's a little more athletic than Booker.
Yeah. You see a lot of Tyler Booker traits.
And I will say this, and I know it's not going to be popular. We're a Longhorn podcast, and I know Golden was there. But this is a draft where I think the top end of the skill positions that were there at 12, if Ted McMillan was there, I would have taken him. I would have been perfectly fine with Golden, but I don't mind taking a guard there. Just because I think in this draft, there is some good depth, consistent depth of you're going to find a guy that can probably play at skill positions in this draft. I don't think there's going to be a bunch of Pro Bowl, all pro skill positions that come out of this draft.
Yeah.
And so if there is a draft to take interior offensive line, and I bet I would be curious to know, the one thing I would be curious to know is, were they getting calls to trade the pick? Where were those at? What were they offered? What did that look like? Because they probably could have dropped back a little bit and got him.
They probably could have dropped back.
A guard did go just 5-6 picks later.
Yeah.
In Gray Zabel, who went to Seattle.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking, Jake. I was thinking they probably could have gone within that 13 to 16 range and would have been safe still getting Tyler Booker if they wanted to trade back.
And I will say Booker was my number one over Zabel. And the reason being is, as a guard, I want you to be able to deal with big, powerful defensive tackles. And that is something Zabel struggled with at times. And that's at North Dakota State. That's not at Alabama. Right. And, Zabel would give up too much ground in his pass pro and run blocking, wouldn't get enough movement all the time. He did look very good. I think he looked better at the Senior Bowl than he did in college. And he looked very good in college, but Booker has a lot more power to him. He's a lot better against those interior, big, powerful defensive tackles. And guess what the NFC is? It's a bunch of big, powerful defensive tackles.
Yep, 100%. All right, Jake. Yeah, we both like the Tyler Booker pick. Let's go ahead. Jaxon Dart. And then we'll talk about some guys.
Only 2 QBs.
Yeah, only 2 quarterbacks.
Crazy.
Again,
when's the last time that happened?
Not a sexy draft. Not a high-powered, star-powered led draft. A lot of big uglies getting picked, whether that be on the defensive or offensive side of the ball. But Jaxon Dart. The Giants trade back into the first round, and they traded with who did they trade with? Houston. To get Jaxon Dart from Ole Miss. Last Ole Miss quarterback that they took, actually, they didn't draft Eli Manning. They traded for Eli Manning after they drafted Phillip Rivers. But they get their Ole Miss quarterback, Jaxon Dart. First thing I'll say about him, big Star Wars fan, big Anakin Skywalker fan. So I already liked him coming into the draft. I now automatically hate him because he's now a New York Giant. How do you think he fits, though? Abdul Carter, Jaxon Dart, I would say at least an optimistic, if you are a Giants fan, an optimistic looking first round draft. I don't know if that's necessarily going to pay dividends at the long run, but it looks fun for now.
Abdul Carter is going to be a stud.
Yes.
I mean, again, him and Travis Hunter for me were the two best players in the draft. I'm not very high on Jaxon Dart in the pros. To be honest, I'm not high. I don't think any of these quarterbacks are going to be great pros.
What about Cam Ward? Just real quickly, I know we're talking Jaxon Dart, but Cam Ward.
I mean, he does have that he has that freak. He does have that freak potential. I've had to change the way I look. Patrick Mahomes has made me like try to look at quarterbacks differently. And so when you see a guy who can make plays kind of like Mahomes did in college, which that's kind of the comp people were throwing out there for Cam Ward. And I see why, but at the same time, that doesn't mean he's going to work out like him.
Right.
And especially in Tennessee, where he might have to start right away, and that might not be a good situation.
I don't know I couldn't name you a wide receiver on the.
I couldn't name you a freaking player on the Titans, basically.
That's Tony Pollard.
Yes, Tony Pollard. But he's the one who definitely has the biggest boom potential out of any of the quarterbacks. But as far as being a number one overall pick in this draft, no. I mean, Cam Ward would be the only one I would have taken in the first round at some point.
Yeah.
But it probably would have been outside the top 10. But that's just not how drafting quarterbacks in the NFL works. But at the same time, even with that being that way, only 2 QBs taken, and Jaxon Dart, the second QB taken, which I think surprised a lot of people. It surprised me. I'm not very high on Sheduer Sanders. I would have taken Sheduer Sanders over Jaxon Dart.
Mel Kiper was surprised.
Darts. Well, yeah, but he thinks Sheduer Sanders is going to be, and his number is going to be retired from the NFL while he's playing.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to wear his own number. He's
going to have to switch numbers. He's going to get 5 numbers retired during his career.
Mel Kiper's voice cracked whenever the Jaxon Dart pick happened. When he was talking about Sheduer Sanders, he had a little bit of a lump in his throat, a little bit of a spoiled baby cry voice going on, and it was a beautiful, beautiful thing to listen to. All right, Jake, best players available still out there to start the second round tomorrow, or well, really today. Obviously, we're releasing this episode for Friday. You got Mike Green from Marshall, the edge rusher. You've got Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan. You got Travion Henderson from Ohio State. Sheduer Sanders, obviously, still on the board. A lot of good guys out there. Shamir Turner from Texas A&M, the defensive tackle. Luther Burden still out there. TJ Sanders, the defensive tackle for South Carolina, still out there. But yeah, there's a lot of names to be had. Carson Schlesinger, the UCLA linebacker, he's still available. Where do you see this first round in terms of maybe what Dallas can do and some other teams that you'd be interested to see some of those names that I just mentioned, teams go up and grab?
If I'm Dallas, I'm sitting there at 12. If Luther Burden's there, I take him.
What about Travion Henderson? What about a running back?
It depends what's there. If Luther Burden's there, I'm taking Luther Burden over just about anyone else I can think of. As far as when I look at what the Cowboys need, I know there's a possibility they might trade for a wide receiver at some point. We'll see if that happens or not. There's always rumors out there, but if a Luther Burden's there, that's who I'm taking.
You got a Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris, Luther Burden, Jalen Noel, Jack Beck. Those are kind of the top 5 receivers still remaining on the board.
Yeah, and I know that the ESPN list has Burden 3. To me, he is the best available just because he, to me, has a very high ceiling. I mean, he has just a high of a ceiling. For me, there was 3 wide receivers in this draft that had a chance to be really good NFL players, Pro Bowl type players. That was McMillan, that was Golden, and that was Luther Burden. And then after that, I'm not in love with any of these other guys. I'm not in love with Higgins, Trey Harris, Jalen Noel. I can see Trey Harris being pretty good. I do like Torrey Horton out of Colorado State.
Yeah.
That's kind of a little bit later on down the
I
list.
like Jack Beck from TCU. I think he's a stud.
And I think you can get some value at running back later in the draft too. And I don't think there's as much value there. I think wide receiver is one of the lower value positions in this draft.
Yeah, guys that we really like, Jake, at running back. Now, Travion Henderson won't be there in the third, but I don't necessarily predict Quinshon Judkins being there in the third, but maybe. But Judkins, Caleb Johnson, Cam Scattaboo, Devin Neal, those are some guys that you and I both really liked.
DJ Giddens,
that would be like later. I'd like
that'd be like fourth round or something like
round.
that. But I think there's a lot of value at running. I think there's going to be some of these running backs who get taken. Like, Taj Brooks, I like him, and he's way down here on this list. He's at 19th of the running backs listed. I wouldn't agree with that, but
Jaden Blue.
Jaden Blue could be very good in the pros. All he's got to do is hold on to the ball. He has crazy potential. Trevor Etienne also has crazy potential. I think there's a lot of value at running back in this draft, and because of that, if you get a chance to get a potential premier guy in the second round, like a Luther Burden, I would take that. I
would go kind of what your route is for Dallas, Jake. I would probably lean more towards wide receiver in the third or in the second, go a Luther Burden in the second, and see what's happening for the rest of the second round, going into the third round at running back. And if some of your guys that you're thinking, there's about to be a run on running backs, maybe you trade up. Maybe you go get your guy.
I would try to get 2 picks in this third round. I think there's a ton of value in this draft from round 2 to round 4. I think there's going to be a lot of really good NFL starters or just solid NFL starters that get found in that round 3, round 4 range.
Yeah.
I like some of the linebackers that are going to be available in the third round.
Yeah.
If you can get
with Overshown's injury history, not that you absolutely, you hope that he can come back. You hope that he's healthy. You hope that he stays injury free, but he's been injured 2 of the last 3 years.
Yeah. Like a Demetrius Knight Jr. is probably going to go in the second round. So I got to go down the list a little. Longhorn fans aren't going to love this, but man, if Danny Stutzman's sitting there in the third round, I'm turning that card in. I think his game translates to the NFC. I think I said that on our show when we were talking about him. Yeah. I was like, an NFC team needs to take him. He fits in the NFC perfectly. And then later on you can get like a Barrett Carter. Kobe King is one that we both liked.
Yep.
I just think there's a lot of value at a lot of different positions as you get into those second to fourth rounds. That's actually the part of the draft I might be most excited for in this draft.
Yeah, the first round might have been kind of lame, but honestly, what might be more exciting is tonight, rounds 2 through 3, and then even going into Saturday's, fourth round, fifth round.
Which when does the draft start? I might have to record it. I'm going to Revenge of the Sith in the theaters.
I want to see. I want to say it might be 7 o'clock like it was tonight. It might be 6 or 5. It might be a couple hours earlier since they're doing 2 rounds tonight.
Yeah, I'll have to figure that out. But I'm seeing Revenge of the Sith in theaters tomorrow. By the way, it's coming back.
I love that for you. I really do, Jake. I wish
I
would.
You chose to have kids, so that's
it's not even the kids thing. Unfortunately, we got the washer situation. I got a ticket I got to pay for. I just have too many other financials that I need to get. Rather than see a movie that I've seen about 100 times already in theaters, which I would love to go see again. Don't get me wrong. I'm not judging anybody for going to see it.
So you have not seen it 100 times in theaters.
Not in theaters.
You've seen it probably once in theaters.
No, I've seen it 100 times to see that movie again in theaters. I can't reasonably explain that to the girlfriend as to why I'm buying these tickets.
I could reasonably explain it for you to her.
It's Revenge of the Sith.
It's movie tickets. It's not concert tickets we're talking about here. But
but to get back on I think that Siobhan Revel Jr., the East Carolina corner, Jake, he's someone that I don't think will last very long. He'll be gone in the second round, but I actually really like him a lot. He's someone that I could see, if say a running back or a wide receiver that you like is already gone by pick 12. If Dallas wants to take a corner in the second round, I'm okay with that. I'm not in love with the Cowboys secondary right now. I don't think Trayvon Diggs is, I think he's, kind of busted after that long-term deal. Bland, always hurt, not reliable in terms of the injury.
Diggs and Bland hurt.
And so now you've got Carlson, who who looked good at the end of the season. Maybe you got something to build on there. But yeah, you might as well keep adding to that secondary. I don't think you can ever have enough depth and enough good players in your secondary.
And this won't probably be a pick for Dallas, but someone's going to get a hell of a player in Mike Green, the Marshall edge rusher.
Absolutely.
I think I thought he'd be a first round guy.
A lot of people did. A lot of people had him in the first round.
To me, and I don't know what Kuiper said about him, and I don't really care what Kuiper said about him. But the pick that Herb Herbstreit was just kind of dissing on was the Shamar Stewart pick, which is funny because it's an A&M guy who went to Cincinnati, and Kirk Herbstreit was just like, yeah, he'd make a flash play in the first quarter, and then I wouldn't say his name again for the rest of the game. And that is true. I mean, if you look at his production, it wasn't near what it kind of, it looks like Tarzan plays like Jane. Type of situation.
He's got all the measurables. He's a player that scouts are going to love in shorts.
In 3 seasons, 11 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks.
Wow.
3 seasons. And he goes number 17 in the draft.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy to think about. That
I had Mike Green above him, and you can say that's because I hate A&M. That's fine. I also thought Myles Garrett. I knew Myles Garrett was going to be freak. Mike Evans. I said Mike Evans was going to be a Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver going into that draft. I feel like I could take my objective.
Yeah, it was also the moment that I knew Mike Evans was going to be the best pro on that Johnny Manziel team was whenever Johnny Manziel was scrambling about 30 yards to the 50-yard line whenever they were in the red zone, and he just threw up a fadeaway jumper as far as he could, and it was just Mike Evans and 3 defenders. Then Mike Evans came down with it. I was like, that wasn't a quarterback play. That was a wide receiver play.
Yeah, and everyone's like, that's my Johnny Manziel. The dude's playing jackpot.
Like, yes, with a 6'6" freak of nature called Mike Evans. So, but yeah, Jake, no, I'm with you, though. I do think that this draft is going to be more exciting in rounds 2, 3, and 4 than what we saw in round 1. Without a doubt.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of high value picks for teams. I think you're going to see you could see a rookie of the year come out of the 2nd to 4th round range. I think an Abdul Carter or
early pick for rookie of the year. Who do you think?
I mean, I'm going to go with Travis Hunter because you're going to have a dude who's going to probably be playing both sides of the ball. And if he stays healthy and produces just pretty well, he's going to win that award.
Say he gets 2 interceptions and 4 receiving touchdowns with
and has 800 yards or something receiving.
He'll be
the 2 picks, some pass breakups, some tackles.
He'll be rookie of the year. Yeah.
That'll be hard to beat unless someone just goes absolutely off. I mean,
which Genty could, obviously. He's a running back. He'll be the kind of Omarion Hampton, 2nd running back taken. Great pick for the Los Angeles Chargers with what Harbaugh wants to do there. I love that.
That is a good scheme fit for sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have taken Hampton in the 1st round. I just thought he was a 2nd round guy. Middle of the 2nd round type guy.
His stock grew a lot towards the end of the draft season.
Yeah, and I don't always love the players that their draft stock just grows out of thin air. After the film has been watched and it didn't go up, combine didn't shoot up, and then it shoots up days before.
Yeah, like a week before the draft, all of a sudden I'm seeing Omarion Hampton in the top 15. I'm like,
I saw him mock to the Cowboys, and I was like, don't.
Yeah, a lot of people mocked him to the Cowboys.
I was like, I do not want that pick at 12 at all. I want wide receiver or I want offensive lineman. That was pretty much where I was at.
But all right, Jake, before we get going and out of here, let's go ahead and discuss the baseball news. Jared Spencer, bad news for the ace, the number 1 pitcher. I think that was on this roster, out for the season for the Texas Longhorns baseball team. A real bummer right ahead of the Texas A&M series, which also kicks off tonight. But yeah, somber news, devastating news. Feel bad for the kid, but that's hurtful for the lineup, for the bullpen, and for this team's success going into the postseason.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how the team responds to this. It's just another, I mean, they've responded to every bit of adversity they faced this season, but at some point you feel like something, when's the straw going to be pulled that breaks the camel's back? I don't know if it'll be this, but now at pitching, you can't afford another injury. They just can't. I mean, we've seen what happens when you start putting in some of those pitchers who don't really play much this year. It's those Tuesday night games where they're giving up a lot of runs to not very good teams. And if you got that going into A&M, Arkansas, OU, it's not going to be fun. Now they still have Rio Haas, who's going to come in and he's looked good. So they're okay, but it really hurts the depth. And
you
need
to win a 3-game series in the World Series. Can you do it?
Yeah. Getting to the World Series just got a lot tougher.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen an update on Jonah Williams yet. Supposedly, I think he's going to be okay, which thankful for that because that affects more than just baseball.
Yeah, I was about to say that's a little bit more than just on the diamond.
Yeah, that affects football as well. And then Max Bailey, we're hoping that he's going to come back. But this Texas baseball team needs some good news when it comes to the injury front. They need someone to return. They're going to need someone to step up in Jonah Williams' absence. If he doesn't play this week, you have to find another outfielder to kind of come in and replace that void. But I'm excited for the series this weekend. I'm also pretty nervous for it just because I feel like these injuries are going to catch up to them at some point, and they're about to hit probably the hardest part of their schedule.
They are hitting the hardest part of their schedule.
I would say they've played a couple, 3 really good teams to this point. But now the rest of the way, there are no more, Mississippi State series, Kentucky series. Yeah. Kentucky's not even bad, but just playing against A&M, Arkansas, OU, with the way A&M's playing right now, even though they're not ranked, is a very different beast.
And then to go in the SEC championship or the SEC tournament following those two.
The SEC tournament, you might just fold it. If you got a top regional seed locked up and a super regional seed,
put your Tuesday squad out there.
Yeah, throw the Tuesday squad out there. Just let it go to a point. I mean, not literally, and I know that's not how it's going to work, but you almost wonder if an early exit from, depending how the rest of the season goes, if they're in a good position,
right,
that'll be something to almost talk about. Would it almost be better to just get knocked out early
and get healthy, get some rest,
get some guys back, get a little rest. This season's been a grind for the Longhorns, and they're feeling it on the depth chart right now.
All right, Jake, let's go ahead, wrap up this show. Fun, always talking about the draft. I told you, Jake, I said, even if this episode is like 20 minutes long, then we'll be fine. Yeah, we're almost pushing an hour.
Oh, I got a football news. Sorry, breaking. Not breaking. This came out yesterday, and I somehow didn't see it. Michael Kern plans to enter the transfer portal.
Okay, that's fine.
So Texas might just be. This is an interesting topic. We don't have to spend but 30 seconds on it, but I think the days of recruiting kickers and punters might be done for programs like Texas.
Yeah.
You just hit the portal every single year for a proven guy out of a mid-major school.
Whatever the best mid-major school is, who has a either senior graduate or a junior ready to transfer, or not even a mid-major, maybe a Big 12, special teams player of the year, something along those lines, because whether it be the Big 12 or the ACC or whoever, they're looking to get to the SEC or the Big 10 regardless. They just are. And so, you kind of have your pick of the litter when it comes to special teams units, and you just kind of, if you need somebody, that's where you're going to look. And so, no, Jake, I'm 100% with you. And the Michael Kern thing, that doesn't necessarily surprise me all that much. Obviously, practices in the spring have kind of shown its true colors of who's going to win that battle.
Yeah. And further on the portal as well, Supposedly Texas might not be done as well. They might still be taking some more. Not at wide receiver is what I've read. But supposedly I don't know what positions. I haven't really seen much, but get them all.
Get them
Just
all.
all the stones, make a Thanos gauntlet out of transfer portal defensive tackles. And luckily, I don't think Texas will have to do this every year at defensive tackle. I've seen a lot of opposing fans that have a very small IQ, A&MOU, saying things about Texas not recruiting defensive tackles because Bo Davis is gone, and now Kenny Baker's been there 1 year and he just brought in 3 blue chip defensive tackles.
I'm not.
And so actually this talent void right now is because Bo Davis's one weakness was not being a great defensive tackle recruiter. Kenny Baker has already done more as a recruiter than Bo Davis did.
Also, when it comes to the transfer portal, you're also recruiting those kids to join your team through the transfer portal.
Yeah.
There's some recruitment aspect into that.
But if you're a Texas fan that's worrying about that, I think the talent churn of defensive tackle is about to reset. You're seeing a void year, essentially, because Bo Davis did not get enough numbers and not enough quality when recruiting defensive tackle at Texas.
No, yeah, you're exactly right. So, all right, let's go ahead, wrap up the episode. And that is it for this week. When we return on Monday, we have a lot to discuss. It'll be the remainder of the NFL draft, but probably it'll be Monday's episode will be Texas A&M, Oklahoma series and baseball and softball. Tuesday, we'll probably hit on rounds 2 through 7 of the NFL draft, more than likely going into next week. And then we'll start looking forward to the Arkansas series for baseball next week as well. So lot to discuss, still a lot on the docket. Our plates just keep getting fuller. Every time we spend a lot of time on content, it's like, man, surely we're going to run out here pretty soon. And it's just keeps piling up.
All while the Dallas Stars are trying to kill us by going to overtime every single night and having games into 12:30.
I love the wins. Love the wins. Love where Dallas is right now, but I need the Stars to win in regulation. That's all I
Or
have.
the NHL just properly schedule games for times.
Dude, Dallas is essentially a West Coast team in the NHL is how I
Yeah, and it starts at 8:30 on the scoreboard and then it starts at 9.
I
year.
always add about 30 minutes onto the initial.
That's what you have to do. It's
start.
22 to 30 minutes every single time. It never starts the time it says it's going to
unless
start.
it's the first game of the evening, unless it's like your 5
That is the only one that starts. And then they're like, we can't have games overlap. Instead, we're going to have games overlap at 11 p.m. when everyone's asleep.
No, that's the one thing the NHL needs to work on. And I've been talking about that for about 2 to 3
All
years
the sports do, other than the NFL, which the NFL is only on the weekends. It's a little different than having a 7-game series. Every other sport schedules stupid. Like the baseball will just schedule a game in the middle of the freaking day on a weekday for the playoffs.
Oh, NLCS game, 3:00 on a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah. No sport has figured out this guy. I mean, maybe the NBA actually does it the best, but even their games go really late.
Well, but they actually have true West Coast teams. They got Golden State playing against LA or something along those lines. Like they actually have like true West Coast, East Coast teams. Whereas it feels like in the NHL, your best West Coast team, furthermost West Coast team is like Colorado and Dallas.
Yeah, I still take back what I said about the NBA. The Thunder and Grizzlies are still playing right now. Thunder came back, by the way.
Oh, the Grizzlies were up by like 30 points in that game.
Thunder are going to win this game.
No
113 to 108, 10 seconds left. Wow. Sorry, we don't talk any NBA on this podcast, but
that's insane. Yeah,
that's something.
Well, and I know the Clippers were taking care of Denver. I haven't checked the score recently, but I know Clippers were
that game is over. It's not over, but it's over.
Yeah, the Clippers were handling the Nuggets last time.
Yeah, it's 4 minutes left, and they're up by a lot.
Yeah, so
I'm not going to do the math.
All right. Well, like, share, subscribe to the channel. This is your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns right here on All In Horns. That's Jake Jimerson. I'm Tanner Carlson. Jake looking awfully cozy with the fireplace roaring in the background. And I love the lineman hat, Stars jersey, looking good. I've got my sweater, my dad Cowboy sweater on. So, looking good, feeling good, and great time of year for some sports. So, all right. that's going to do it. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, hook 'em.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.